Hello everyone! People often get phones with a contract, as it's seen as the easiest and the simplest way to get a phone. I also got my phone with a contract. However, we've been getting a lot of no-contract phones, mainly from Chinese companies trying to get recognized. And today, I'm reviewing one of those phones, the Umidigi Power. I got this as a secondary phone as I'm traveling. It comes in a very stylish box with all the specs written on the backside. As you can see, it has an 8-core processor up to 2.3 GHz, 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, and dual SIM support. Once you open the box, you get a thank you note from Umidigi for basically trusting them and buying their phone. Quite odd. The phone comes with a case, a pre-applied screen protector, user manual and whatnot, a rather amateurly packed USB cable, and an 18-watt fast charger. Please note that the fast charger doesn't have any ETL or UL certification. Build quality is honestly pretty good. Unlike its competitors in this price level, it's all metal, which is nice. It has 2 rear cameras and the camera bump is smaller than the iPhone. On the back, you see the Umidigi logo, which is understandable, but also it reads, designed by Umidigi, Android smartphone, assembled in China, as well as the CE certification. As far as I know, in Europe, manufacturers are required to put the CE certification logo on the phone, but not in North America. Seems like Umidigi didn't want to come up with 2 separate versions. The front is amazing. It has a gorgeous screen with an ever so tiny notch that houses the front camera. One small detail, I love the way they hid the speaker. The bezels are slightly thicker than my iPhone X, but honestly, overall, it looks better than my iPhone. The 6.3-inch LTPS screen has a resolution of 2340 by 1080. Overall, I can easily say the screen makes the phone feel more expensive and premium than it actually is. The screen gets very bright, and with a pixel density of 409 ppi, it's very crisp. It's advertised as gold. However, I'd say it's between gold and rose gold that Apple offers. I didn't realize this until a friend of mine saw the phone and said that it's rose gold. The included case is black, but it has a nice texture and overall it's very light. Interestingly, it has some holes that don't correspond to anything on the phone. They probably sell the same case for different phones that use the same casing. On the left side, it has a SIM tray that supports 2 SIM cards or a SIM card and a microSD card. I tried with a 64GB microSD card and it worked with no problems. Just keep in mind that the SIM tray is upside down, which means you'll need to flip the phone to insert or remove a card, otherwise it'll fall. Also, this might be a small thing, but the SIM tray and the eject hole aren't aligned properly. On the right side, it has the volume buttons and the lock button, which are quite close to one another. I wish the volume buttons were on the left side. If you're using the included case, you'll see that the volume down button and the lock button are very close to each other. I mean, closer than volume buttons themselves. On the bottom, it has a USB-C port, a headphone jack, and speakers. Personally, I don't miss the headphone jack. However, I would still list it as a pro if they actually included a pair of earphones. The included speaker is okay at best. It's not super loud, and the sound quality isn't amazing. It has 2 rear cameras, a 16-megapixel main shooter, and a secondary 5-megapixel one. I've been using this phone for around a week now, and I think it is a stabilization issue that you get used to in a couple of days. The first couple of days, half the photos I took were just blurry. Now I think I'm doing better. It also has a portrait mode as it has 2 cameras, but it seems like it's doing it more on the software level than hardware level. Anyways, I still think the result is okay. Front camera is 16 megapixels as well, and it's amazing for selfies. Also, unlike the rear camera, I haven't had any stabilization issues. I was initially going to record this part using its camera, however, I realized that the video quality isn't good enough. I'm now using the Umidigi Power to take a video. And this is me using the front camera. It has an octa-core Helio P35 processor that runs at 2.3 GHz, which is similar in performance to a Snapdragon 630. It also has 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage, expandable via microSD. The performance overall is okay. Keep in mind that the last Android phone I owned was a Galaxy Note 2. It does web browsing and such just fine, and I was even happier once I got rid of the Google keyboard in favor of SwiftKey. However, it stutters in 2 apps in particular, Google Maps and Facebook Messenger. Hopefully, these will go away with future updates. Gaming is fine. I'm not a real gamer, but I tried a couple of games like Asphalt and Need for Speed, and it worked just fine. It has a fingerprint scanner and Face ID. The fingerprint scanner rarely recognizes my finger the first try, and only recognizes it half the time or so before it asks me for my password. Honestly, I always have problems with phone fingerprint scanners, but I did some research and I realized that I'm not the only one who has problems with the fingerprint scanner. If you want to use Face ID instead like me, it gives you a warning during the initial setup that it's not as secure as the other ways of logging in. It works better than the fingerprint scanner though. It has a 5100 mAh battery, and it easily lasts more than a day even if you're not a light user. Also, despite the huge battery, it's not that heavy. One of the reasons why people get phones on contract instead of cheap unlocked phones is compatibility. Using a cheap unlocked phone, you might get stuck with 3G or not have any reception at all. I also hesitated when I was about to buy it, even though I checked the bands that it works with, especially because I would be traveling with it and different countries use different bands for LTE. In Canada, I had absolutely no issues. I was in for a surprise when I did a speed test. It actually gets better speeds than my iPhone. Another reason why people get phones on contract is the warranty, and there's not much to say about it. If you have a problem with your Umidigi phone, you'll get little to no support from the manufacturer. For example, if you break its screen, eBay will be your best bet to buy a replacement screen. Overall, how well of a phone is it? It's very well built, it has a gorgeous screen, and the performance is pretty decent except some apps. The rear cameras take some time to get used to, and the single speaker is average at best. It's nice to have a fingerprint scanner on the back, however, it doesn't work well for me. Regardless of the price, I would give it a 6 out of 10. It's a different story when you take price into consideration. For $189 taxes in, you get a phone that's average or better in pretty much every category. So I'll happily give this phone a 9 out of 10. Personally, I didn't know anything about Umidigi until I watched the Linus Tech Tips video about it. And I remember Linus saying that we've come a long way in terms of budget phones. That video was from last year. It's getting harder and harder to distinguish a $200 phone from a $1,000 one. Thanks a lot for watching, and I really hope I'll see you next time.